All right, what is happening, people? Let's walk through what I'm looking at today. I did not take a trade yesterday, but this buy was valid. So I posted that on Twitter, so if you want to look at that, head over to my Twitter. Other than that, let's get ready for today. So we've now completed somewhat of a retracement of what I was looking for, and now we've come into the area, which I was kind of expecting. Now we're in the hourly, what I would call the hourly decisional of this break. So it is valid to get a reaction off of this like we are right now. Now we've just got to see what this decisional kind of holds. I don't think it'll hold long term, but it is more than valid too. So we'll have to see what that kind of does. We can get rid of the imbalance. Actually, we'll leave that there. So down to the 15 minute. Now that we've reacted off of that point, we've actually induced into the mitigation of that point, induced a really, really small demand to supply, like really small. I don't think, I reckon that had already broken. So it actually broke the retest into it, which is completely fair, and then mitigated basically the last area of imbalance and mitigation and all the fun stuff in there. So off of that, we've obviously got that push down. If we read more, I guess, better ranges this way, I guess you would have that as your break. If I flip it, what would I have as my break? It probably has that as your break of structure, given the current scenario. So what I'm actually going to do is have that as my break here. So we can have a bullish break of structure. We've now come down and we've taken the retest. We've come out of a supply to demand area off of that, which is really, really clean. And now we're basically looking like, what can we do off of this? That's more or less the internal break here. Like I said, this is just retest. So make sure you've got what your liquidity equals to. That there, in terms of this area here, got this hourly point that sits internally here. On the 15 minute, this is what we'd be looking for as a mitigation to find out what the go is. So we are more bearish, like I said. This doesn't necessarily have to lead to a break of structure, so we need to work out what this point is going to do. Being a decisional, there's multiple ways we can kind of read into this. This demand to supply type area doesn't really mean anything. It's more just an internal break with a structure cycle. You would actually expect that this does get taken. So I'm going to go into today expecting that this is going to be taken because I think if we're going to sell, it makes more sense to actually sell off of something like that. Given that's the case, we can jump down to the 5 minute and more or less read into internally what this has done. There's not a lot to go off in here. So we're going to need some more structure. Until we've got some more structure, there's not much we can actually be doing. But I would like to see a smart money trap reaction off of that. Whether that looks like, coming to this point, push down into the area of inducement and then push back up, or what we get on open is actually a really quick move to the downside, induce this low here, and then what we will have on the 15 minute is we've got, realistically, we don't even have a decisional. We've got a demand to supply, supply to demand that sits internally in here. This is the 5 minute decisional. It did take liquidity and it did mitigate the last area. We can use that as our decisional. It's just very shit. So what we can kind of look for is just a minor inducement into this decisional. That break and retest is not enough. So the problem I'm facing now is the reaction into this point, 1, isn't enough. And the reaction in point 2 isn't enough. So what I'm going to look to see is either we get a break and I sell, or we get a quick push down, minor inducement, and then I'm happy to actually buy through this. So they're the two options I'm seeing today on GU. Either or I'm open to, and obviously we may be able to sell to buy to sell off of those. A good sell off of this will be basically just doing what it's doing, make its way up to the mitigation of this point, give us a minor inducement into that mitigation, and then take a smart money trap reaction trade through that, targeting that trend line. So I do like sells more coming into this session, sells to buyers in some fashion, whether we take the point first or just sell from there. Euro USD, more or less the same situation. On the hourly, we've come into that point. It is the decisional of this break. The demand to supply of this break. It is valid to give a reaction. I just don't think it's going to hold. Straightforward and simple. Really, really good area to buy stages. No entry. We've now taken the break and retest here. We've also taken the decisional. So I actually more or less like that take as liquidity, as my main take of liquidity. This area is the decisional. It did break. It was break and retest area around here. So we've taken a lot of liquidity, lots and lots of liquidity. And now it's obviously pushing back up. Off of this move here and this area, I don't see this as enough of like an inducement into a mitigation to push away. So I'm going to treat this as a smart money trap personally. I did induce internally into it, so that can be an issue. I'm not going to treat it as a smart money trap yet. Got internal break. This is the demand to supply of that. The demand to supply area doesn't actually hold any weight at all. So it's just the same kind of read as what we've got on GU. Internally in here, that entire range is the point. That's obviously the decisional of the decisional. So coming up into that area, I actually do really like selling off the take of that. I do like that. But given we did take the decisional, put through this, I would say this isn't going to hold. Buyers are more valuable. I just don't see a way to get in. So it's looking like we're going to have to take a sell off of that, just like on GU. So it's the same situation. GU has a lot more reason to sell. EU does not. I don't think this will hold. It's just very, very garbage. You got that range and that range here. And that's kind of it. We may even just push through this before we even get to our session. So I'm open to both sides of the market on that as well. That'll just be a complete internal read. And then AU, reading this structure here, we've now come up and taken a random high. I don't think it holds any weight. Not really interested in using that as anything. On the 15-minute, if we read internally this direction, that's our break. That's then pulled up, completed a structure cycle internally in here and then pushed away. So I would need this to at least come up to this area. I just want to keep buying this. I'm happy to use that as our 15-minute break, retest, and then pushed away. The retest did actually take that internal supply to demand, which actually did take liquidity. We've then pushed up, retest, and pushed away. We've then mitigated the extreme, and now we've started to push away. So what I'd be expecting to have happen is for this to be a smart money trap, which lines up with EU and GU buying. So what I ideally would like to do is buy through this point. In terms of a way of getting in this, we did actually mitigate this bottom point, which is so goddamn clean. A way of getting in this, we have now induced this low into the mitigation of that area. We've pushed up. I'm basically just going to need another trap area. Kind of right. Yeah, we need some more 1 minute movement, but I want to buy. I want to buy this. I just don't see a weight in it yet. This will be a, in 30 minutes time, where are we? And what can we kind of see? In terms of shit to the left, we can sell off of. I don't see any of this as valid. Absolutely none of it. We're coming from an extreme, so I need to treat this pretty strict. Realistically, that's my break. Anything up here is fair game. All of this is just junk liquidity. Okay, so happy to treat this as a break of structure and treat those rules and be pretty specific with that. And we'll kind of go from there. So I like buys, and we've just got to be able to buy through this in some way. I don't see this as a good enough inducement, personally. No. Buys only. I don't see sells as a valid thing, especially with the decisional inducement of the new range. So clean. Cool. So they're the options I see there. I'm more likely want to buy every pair, but I'm open to selling them. DXY, it's doing exactly what we kind of wanted here, pulling down into this area. It has now confirmed a retracement with this break of structure. Off of that break of structure internally in here, it's then retested, it's then taken the retested, and now it's selling. So I would say this will blow through this point. It'll treat this decisional as a smart money trap and then probably melt through there, at least coming for this low. That is a low I want to target. And if we actually look at my drawings on the higher time frame, that was something I wanted to see. I wanted to see some type of medium inducement in here. Funnily enough, that's there. It's just happening on a smaller time frame. We're obviously coming a bit lower, so I think that's kind of off limits. Either one of the options, and go from there. Beautiful. Live with the main group today. We've got some things to look at. If not, kind of move on from there. Any questions, drop them below. Premium in the description below. Going to try and go live tomorrow on YouTube, see how the internet plays out. Sharing all of my updates on Twitter, so X. So if you want that, I'll actually chuck that in the description as well. And let's have ourselves a good Tuesday.